Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update on Wednesday, August 15th, 12:58 a.m. Mountain Time 2018. Are you ready for global freezing your arse off? Well, if you stay tuned for the rest of this video, we'll describe how we will determine when the eddy minimum starts and when it ends. We're all suspicious observers, aren't we? We want to know the truth, don't we? Major wildfires scorch 135,000 acres across Washington state. Holy crapoly. I didn't hear about this. Several wildfires burning across Washington state have scorched 135,000 acres combined, and most are still growing as firefighters struggle to contain and prevent further damage. I went and looked into this real quick. You can look into it with me. Look at the size of the fires in Washington state. That's the bright, glowing red region there. You can see Northern California fires. You can see the state line fires, the Carr fire. You can see the Utah fire. Look at these Washington state fires. We got to keep our eyes on this. They're attaching, and a lot of the state is on fire. Now, a lot of my subscribers are talking about BC. And they say it is smoky out there. And these are the fires in question, and they are traipsing their way all the way through Alberta. So that is some large-scale activity there. Not as hot as that spot. Look at that spot in Washington state. Heads up. Welcome to the extreme drought as predicted in grand minimas. For the entire period, Italy Bridge was vulnerable before collapse, experts say. This is an ancient bridge. Not ancient history, but we're talking decades old. A bridge more than half a century old suddenly collapsed in Genoa, Italy, killing at least 28 plus. I haven't seen the new numbers, but we'll come over here to the watchers. More than 35 killed. Highway bridge collapses during fierce storm in Genoa, Italy. I think the number's up to 38 now. At least 38 people have been killed, dozens more feared dead, as a huge section of the highway bridge collapsed. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen the most awesome footage from the old head that got the footage of this bridge collapsing. It's absolutely insane. Now, let's come up to what they say in the article and glean a little more information here. Eyewitnesses said they saw the bridge being struck by a lightning and wobbling before it collapsed. Now, this could be related to grand solar minimum and positive lightning strikes increasing. I watched helicopter footage of them surveying the damage after the fact, and it was insane. Here it is. I mean, why these guys are in a helicopter at this point is anyone's question. That helicopter, here's the bridge cut off here. That guy lived, and he's got a story. There's on a blog. But there's a picture of positive lightning striking this bridge during collapse and prior to collapse, according to eyewitnesses. So that might have something to do with it. In the central column, which is missing here, this is the one that was struck by lightning. And this span collapsed, and the span on the other side of this column, which is the same as this, collapsed. So that's just a heads up. We're going to be watching it closely. Storm brings cluster of hail for Jefferson County. Big clusters. Look at that. 5, 6 inches. The storm blew through 5 p.m., and the sheriff's office says there's quite a mess in the storm's wake. Look at this debris here. Do you think any crops made it? I doubt it. This is in the Pikes Peak region, where that hail grows. Now, according to the National Weather Service, flooding lingers across the Northeast. Fire weather concerns out west. I showed you those. I showed you the fires burning here, here, and here. And they're praying for rain. Prince Edward Island crops devastated by hail. Moments ago, 2,500 homes without power. Farmers are sizing up damage from severe storms that ripped through PEI. More than 2,500 homes were left without power, according to the Maritime Electric's outage map. People were left without windshields as well. It was like you took an ice box and dumped ice cubes everywhere. The hail incident wasn't good for our farm. It's affected a lot of farms, says Tania McKenzie of McKenzie Produce. Farmers are sizing up damage from hailstorms that hit the island on Friday. Some of the pumpkin leaves are snapped in the area where blossoms are. I don't even know where to begin. Kenzie and her staff were in the midst of harvesting cabbage when the hail hit. I was in the house trying to get some payroll stuff, and I looked out the windows and the trees, leaves and branches started going sideways. It was like a hurricane hit PEI. There's the obvious minimal cabbage damage. That's a minimal cabbage damage boom. Yes. That's a One Direction boom, man. That's a rare. That's rare. And you're witnessing it. The Watchers News Brief, August 14th, 2018. Vans underwater. Heavy rain hit central U.S. this week. Heads up. After a string of warm and dry days, heavy rain inundating the Central Plains will soon overspread the region. The AccuWeather local storm max is 6 inches, with the event is most likely to be in the Ozark Mountains, northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri, and northeastern Oklahoma. Heads up. This is after the Northeast has been inundated with flooding. Now, very dry ground is slower to absorb water, causing more flash flooding and runoff. Creek beds and low-lying streets. Heads up. State of emergency issued for dam site in Hancock, New York. Fast-moving Howe Ridge fire in Glacial National Park prompts evacuations, Montana. This is coming out August 11th. Venezuela and Colombia experiencing the largest floods in 4 decades. New sunspot emerges on the sun. Heads up. There is a little bit of A in minor B range as far as flaring, and we're going to look at that coronal hole high-speed wind expected on Earth in the next few days. Here's CH-880 turning around and the northern polar coronal hole, and here's that sunspot in question. Lightning sparks nearly 150 new fires in BC. We showed you that map coming from Windy. We had the carbon monoxide on. Kempsey records coldest August morning since records began in 1882. New South Wales, Australia. This comes after a week of global warming nonsense out of this country of the hottest July ever. And it's just not a small look at. According to Weather Zone, Monday's minimum in Kempsey was negative 3.2 degrees. The previous was 2.2. That's a huge difference. 1 full degree. That's a One Direction boom. I'm wondering what the bomb is thinking. Like, the hottest ever. And yet we're destroying cold records in Kempsey. Mosquitoes in 2 mass municipalities test positive for West Nile. I think we just erased something. Let's check it out. No. So what does this mean for you, Massachusetts people? Well, it means it sucks because the first human case of West Nile virus was confirmed in New Jersey on August 14th. Look at that disgusting thing. Officials have confirmed the first human case of West Nile virus in New Jersey this year, with 2 other potential cases still under investigation. A 74-year-old Hunterdon County man recently tested positive for West Nile after displaying symptoms late last month, the New Jersey Department of Health said. Ew. Seismic update. Northern Alaska is still rocking, as would be expected due to normal seismic aftershocks after a major quake. So this is normal aftershock activity. Globally, no other quakes of note. We still have the 5.0 in South Africa, 5.4 in South Sandwich, and a 5.1 south of Panama, 10 kilometers. Very quiet on the seismic front. Now, as far as Atka volcano is concerned, not quiet. Let's go back there. I did have a little faux pas. I wanted to bring you in here and give you some information here on the central Aleutians. We've had a 4.1 at Atka, Alaska at 43 kilometers, which is the magma depth, and here a 3.3 at 9.5. Now, let's come in, and you can come in here at USGS and see where these quakes occurred relative to the volcano. Now, over here at Volcano Discovery, you can read the background and the fact that Atka is the largest volcanic center in the central Aleutians, consisting of a central shield and Pleistocene caldera with several post-caldera volcanoes, and the activity is close to the volcano. In fact, moving towards it. Boom, boom, boom. Now, according to the Smithsonian Institution Global Volcanism Program, Atka hasn't erupted since the Dalton minimum, 1812. Confirmed VEI3. So it's anyone's guess what this volcano is capable of. Here's your VEI3. There's several other stratocones in this region. So anything could happen. And it appears to be part of the cosmic ray awakening of silicious-rich volcanoes. Worldwide volcano news update. Dukono, continuous volcanic ash, Sabancaya, Ibico, and Kapahu. Now, Kapahu has ongoing possible emissions, as well as a possible eruption at Ibico. Intermittent emissions at Sabancaya. And then we have Krakatau, Dukono, Reventador, Sakurajima in the last 36 hours. Let's talk about the nonsense. Extreme temperatures, especially likely for the next 4 years. Cyclical natural phenomena that affect the planet's climate will amplify the effects of man-made global warming. Okay. Yeah. In case you haven't heard, the sun is the main driver of climate on the planet, as well as the rest of the planets in the solar system. You can see the arrow here where you are now, and you can see where we're going in just a decade into a really bad region. The same area we're headed was called the Maunder minimum, but the area we're going into is the Eddy minimum. Now, if you come and look at this graph, you can immediately glean it's total garbage. Because it's what it's claiming is since 1980, the temperature has gone straight up. Now, if you go to Google and you type in Roy Spencer, what you're going to get is the actual temperature graph of the globe. And here it is. And here's 1980. And here's today. And you can see the temperature today is just 0.32 degrees above 1980. Okay? Are you following me? And they're claiming that today's temperature is 0.7 degrees higher. They're going up here. They're lying to you on purpose for no apparent reason except to feed a narrative. Now, here is another article that just adds a year. The next 5 years will be anomalously warm, scientists predict. Well, take a look at the last 3 years. It's one of the largest temperature drops in modern history. It's equivalent to the drop back here in the late 90s, the drop here in the early 90s, and some drops back in the 70s. But this is a very significant temperature drop globally. In fact, it's almost a degree C. And it's my prediction that we are going to go below baseline in 2019. Like all these spikes from decades ago. And then we're going to exceed them moving forward. So the next 5 years will not be anomalously warm, regardless of what they lie to you about. And that's a one direction boom. Yes. And we need to be suspect about these numbers. Always. Check your data. If you're reading an article that has a graph that goes straight up, you're probably reading nonsense. And simply, you could come here and see the actual satellite-based temperature of the global lower atmosphere. There's nothing linear about this. Up and down. 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. If you believe temperature is linear, you don't know about the facts. These are the factual satellite data points. And you can see a 5, 7, 10, and 20-year cycle. There is a nested hierarchy of climate forcing. None of this has to do with you. What, did we pollute a lot here and burn stuff and then stop? What, do we throw out a lot of trash and then really get good at recycling here? The global warming ruse is total BS. Climate is a natural cycle. We've leveled off. And the shit's about to hit the fan, unfortunately. Continue to question your sources. Mini ice age. The mainstream is suggesting the sun will lose 7% of its power in 30 years. So are we. It's called a grand minima. Also known as a prolonged sunspot minima. It's a period when the sun's magnetic pull will diminish. Sunspots are less frequent and less UV will make it to the planet. Now, this is a misnomer because at the same time our magnetosphere is waning. And that's actually going to allow more radiation, more cosmic rays. So it's very important that you know where you're getting your information because it's mostly bad. Now, the modern eddy minimum will be assigned its starting and ending point only after the event has transpired, which means after we're all dead. And here's some historic information on grand minima that I compiled today and the periodicities between. Here's 200 years of warming and happiness. Here's 100 years between the wolf and Sporer, 100 between the Sporer and Maunder, 100 between the Maunder and Dalton, 100 between the Dalton and Glassberg, and now 100 between the Glassberg and the Eddy. Which brings us to 2014. Are you picking up what we're putting down? The grand minima is imminent. With an I. Imminent. And it doesn't matter if it started at the minimum at 2009 or the minimum in 2020. It doesn't matter. It's coming. The new grand minima is imminent. And it's called the Eddy minimum. And it could last 40 years. It could last 30 years. It could last 34 years. It might last 70, 100, or 150 years. It's anyone's guess. And anyone says that they know is full of shit. But what I know is that not only are we at a grand minimum, but the magnetosphere is also waning. And guess what? We're also at the end of the interstadial. No one knows the answers. But I can tell you the probabilities are very high that the empire is over. Eyes open, no fear. Continue to question everything. Now, they assign the Dalton minimum to cycle 5, 6, and 7. They assign the Gleisberg or the Centennial minimum to 12 through 16. Yet 2 of the cycles were positive. There's been a controversy that Ben Davidson is anti-Oppenheimer Ranch, and I guarantee he's not. I'm a personal friend of Ben's. Scientists are allowed to disagree, and Ben is a scientist. He doesn't know all the things I have said. And the way that you comment is insane. Now, Ben is under the opinion that the grand minimum will not start until cycle 26, maybe. We are of the opinion that eddy minimum starts at the minimum now, 24, 25. Lee Wheelbarger, who's going to be on the radio show tomorrow night, thinks that the eddy minimum already began at the beginning of cycle 24. And the graphic I'm showing you of Cool Sun also believes that as well. So that the eddy minimum began back in 2009. I believe that the eddy minimum is going to begin now at the solar minimum 24-25, which is actually going to be 2020. It doesn't matter. There's no need to argue. The modern minimum is imminent, and it is going to exceed the Maunder minimum, which was bad. You need to prepare your family for what's going to happen either in the next 3 years or the next 10. The clock is ticking. Stop arguing over nothing. The powers that be are going to continue to make you argue. It's time we all get along. Tiny steps to self-sufficiency is the key to survive and thrive in the future, not bickering. If you want to continue to bicker, I'm going to continue to snicker because you're a troll. And that's a boom. One Direction style. Be safe, everybody.